right, welcome back to For Richer Broker. This is AJ Powers, broker owner here at Powers Premier. Today we are with a very good friend of mine, CEO and president of LionDesk CRM,
Right on.
David Anderson. How's it going?
It's good, man. Good
Hey.
to be here. Excited. Ready to talk about some good stuff.
Awesome. So Dave owns LionDesk CRM, which is one of the top, if not the top CRMs here in the real estate space, and really interesting background with what would you call your background?
Entrepreneurial for sure. Like a lot of agents and brokers that are out there, just wanted to start something and offer good products to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of the background. How did LionDesk get started?
Yeah. So back in 2014, I actually went to the Inman conference up in San Francisco, listened to what other people were saying about tools. And the biggest problem that I saw was, as a broker, when you're building your tech stack or as an agent, you've got like 5 different things that you got to deal with. Like, this, right?
Right.
You got your website, you've got your follow-up, you've got your lead distribution system, you've got your transaction management system, and then you've got all these other things. And there really seemed to be either you had to get an all-in-one system or patchwork everything together. And so
Right.
what we did with LionDesk essentially was I wanted to build something that was integrated with all these other products, but you really had to go to one spot to see from contact to close what was going to happen on that particular client or transaction.
Sure. Just be a hub.
Yeah, be the hub, kind of centralize all the data, so you can see your website visits, your leads, your transactions, all the communication, texting, email, etc., to help agents and brokers just manage their business better and get more deals.
Okay. Now I know we're in a lot of these big Facebook groups, and one of the most common questions is, what CRM should I be using?
Yep.
And so when I talk to agents, it's usually a matter of, one, they either don't have a CRM or they really don't grasp how to use one, right? They don't understand how it really improves their lives.
Yep.
They don't get into the CRM in their database every single day to check in on their tasks or their clients and stay in contact. So what are some of the things that you see the most successful agents in LionDesk doing that really improve their lives?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, right? So half of our clients probably don't have a CRM when they actually sign up with us. The other half do, but they're not utilizing any of the functionalities. And so for us, we put a big effort on the first 30 days of that particular client. Get your contacts in, categorize them, right? And then just get a couple easy wins. Text your contacts, text your sphere, right? And then from there, you can start growing into the other things. But from a productivity standpoint, if you're having conversations as an agent and you're not tracking them, which allows you to go back historically, right?
Right.
And then allows you to filter your contacts, then you're missing out on huge opportunities in sales. So what NAR says, but 90% of clients say they want to use their same agent again, right? But only 12% do.
Right.
I mean, that's a big problem.
They forgot who their agent was.
Yeah, they forgot because the agent, as soon as they're done with escrow, it's like next, next, next. Like they want to, keep moving
Right.
on to the next thing. When in reality, if they're actually working their sphere and working their past clients, they're not going to have to hustle as hard on all these new leads as they're coming through.
Too transactional, not enough relational type follow up, right? I mean,
Yep.
you need to be top of mind with all of your people, whether it's a lead, a past client, friends, family. And I say this probably every podcast is, everyone knows 10, 15 agents. So
Yep.
how do you stand out and be top of mind? And I think part of that is just being there all the time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah. We don't have a lead problem in this industry, right? We have a follow-up problem.
right.
It's a follow-up and a nurture problem. And somebody asked me a week ago, like, well, how often should I follow up and how long? And I said, well, it may be a little depressing to think about it, but follow-up is infinite,
Right.
right?
Forever.
It's forever, right? I mean, when you close a deal, if you haven't sent that person a phone call, an email, a text message, or a direct mail piece 30 days after to say, hey, I can't believe it's been 30 days. How's everything going? And then a year later, make a nice little letter that they can get, put a little package together. I mean, there's pretty easy things that you can automate,
Yep.
and keep very personal as well. And that's what we're and have put together on LionDesk.
Yeah. And what you mentioned with personal and automated being like merge fields, right? So you create these templates that say, hi, first name.
Yeah.
It's been a year, and one of the things that I use a lot in your CRM is custom fields, which I think are really underutilized. Being able to create a category for home anniversary date or kid's name or favorite sports team, favorite restaurant, and then being able to track these things and like you said, filter them out. Or if you're sending out a text message and you want to add in a certain field, it's automated. So you create a template,
Yeah.
and as long as you follow through, it's really easy to do. It's just a matter of, I mean, let's be honest, agents are lazy, right?
I'm not going to say that. I just think agents are very busy. How about that?
Well, that's a nice way to put it, Dave. I think that there's a variation of commitment in this industry, variation of objectives as far as like goals and how successful people want to be. And if you look at the top, I would say even 20% of agents, they all have a CRM. They go in it every single
Yeah. Oh,
day.
yeah.
They have a dialer set up. They know who they're calling daily. They know what their objective is. They have those automated campaigns
Mhm.
that remove some time and follow up, and that's what it really takes to be omnipresent, right? Like in front of everyone at all
You
times.
bet. Yeah. You bet,
So,
man.
what are some of the biggest things you guys have coming in or recently released with LionDesk that people might be interested in?
So we completely rebuilt the platform. Again, the company itself is coming up on 5 years old since kind of the inception of the idea. 2 years ago, we decided to start everything over from scratch, rebuild the whole back end, front end, the new UI. So we have a beta version of that for LionDesk. We call it V2.
So before you go further, for those of our listeners that aren't really tech savvy, can you give us a breakdown of what UI, front and back, and what are
Sure,
you
it
guys doing?
looks better. It's quicker, easier. So your point, right? Like people log into a system, and we all try new things all the time. And it's like, now what do I do? I just signed on. Now what do I do? Right? And so we, with the new iteration, we're going to walk them through like import your context, categorize. Let's send your first text message. Right?
Right.
Get easy wins. So the new thing is that was a big one. Another one that has increased response rates dramatically, which is really what the CRM is all about, is Lead Assist, which is an AI follow-up platform via texting that we launched about 3 months ago or so.
Okay.
And leads are now responding either yes, no, or maybe, right? In terms of like when they're ready to talk to the client,
Okay.
about 70% of the time.
Oh,
Yeah. So that has increased conversions dramatically for a lot of our clients. I talked to one company yesterday. They're having their best year they've ever had in sales. Are up, I think, 80 or 90%
that's amazing.
because of, and she said it plainly, because of LionDesk and the follow-up tools.
So, how does Lead Assist work? Like, what are the things it doesn't do? How would it help grow an agent's
You
business?
get a new lead. It is Saturday afternoon. You're at your open house or maybe at your kid's soccer game. The AI will follow up immediately. Actually, it's about a 2-minute follow because it doesn't want to seem too like
Sure.
body, right? Too computery.
Yep.
And then it asks questions, right? And says, well, yeah, hey, I saw you were interested in that property on Main Street. When would you like to see it? The client says, sometime next week. When are you looking to buy? Are you pre-approved? Are you working with another agent? And all of those answers are being put into LionDesk into custom fields, which are then searchable,
Right.
right, later. And the other cool thing is that it's not just a bot, which is like logic, right? Which is beds, baths, yes, nos.
Right.
It actually, because we are at this point sending out about 5 million text messages a month from LionDesk, we have a lot of machine learning. And so I saw a conversation about a month ago, and the client said, I'm actually helping my sister move. She's getting a divorce. And a typical bot would have been like, great, we can
Right.
help. So our, Lead Assist Gabby, we called it, replied back to the client and said, I'm really sorry to hear that. We're going to make this as easy as possible. So it's able to pick up key terms like veteran, divorce, anything, and then respond accordingly with,
More personalized
personalized.
approach.
Yeah. And at any point, by the way, the agent can see these conversations happening on their LionDesk app, mute the AI, and then just take over.
Sure. So you basically have an assistant following up that is there at all times. So then you don't have to worry about actually having an assistant sending out texts or you doing it because, again, I'm not going to say all agents are lazy, but a lot of agents, if you look at the statistics, which blows my mind, people spend all this money to generate leads and then they don't follow up with them.
Well, that's it.
I mean, like you said, we have a follow up problem. And I think one of the best quotes I heard recently is your only job is to prospect and follow up. If you don't prospect, you won't have leads to follow up with. And if you don't follow up, why are you even
Right.
prospecting?
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, it's like, all right, I've got, again, you could have, like you said, hundreds of thousands of leads if you
Yeah.
really wanted to, if you could afford to. And if you're not making the stat is called 8 through 12 is the majority of the conversions in real
Mm-hmm.
estate.
Mm-hmm.
And most agents make 1 to 2 phone calls. It's simple math. It's just a matter of following up more and more and more and better. I mean,
And better.
obviously, you need to have a better process and have better conversations. But if you're not making that 8th to 12th attempt at all, the odds of you converting these people are very slim, right? I mean,
Correct. Yeah. And so the AI follows up to that point 36 times in 12 months.
wow.
It's very aggressive at first, but not rude,
Mhm.
right? But the key is like, I always tell people, I'd rather have overly persistent follow up than a lack thereof, right? Because you're going to get way more deals by
Right.
being incredibly persistent.
Yep.
And again, that's what a CRM should do is help you with that follow up, right? And when the client replies like, "Yeah, cool, I'm ready," and it gets through all those questions, then you still have to pick up the phone,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
it doesn't just tell them to meet you at the house and
right.
you show up and write an offer. You still got to make that
Right.
relationship.
Agents are scared of technology, on one hand, but they want technology to do everything for them on the other, right?
It's not because they're lazy, is it?
No, it's not. But I mean, it's a hard business, right?
Right.
I mean, like everything, you're out there, 85% failure rate, but on the other hand, you got a 90% small business failure rate too, over a course of 5 years. So it's tough, but you got to leverage the systems that are available for you, and succeed.
It's funny that you compared real estate to a small business because I don't think people that get into real estate think about opening up a small business, but it's really what it
It
is.
is.
I mean, you are an entrepreneur, you're an independent contractor. Sure, you're underneath the brokerage, but that's mainly for liability support training, not to run your business, give you leads, close the deals.
Right.
So I think that's also part of why we have such a big failure rate is people don't even have any idea what they're doing when they get started.
It's hard, right? And that's why you got to choose a broker like you have, right, at Powers Premier to help you walk through this whole process. Because when you're starting a business, and that's why I tell agents all the time, if you think of yourself as a salesperson, you're not going to do very well. If you think of yourself as a business owner, it gives you a bigger picture, right, in
Yep.
terms of what you're going to do. So yeah, I mean, it's a mindset,
Sure.
right? It's a big mindset.
Okay. So, as far as tech, let's kind of touch on that a bit because I think that's one of the hot words and has been in real estate for a while, right? Is
Oh yeah.
like tech. Our company is now a tech company. We're creating all of these proprietary systems and they're ours. And it's gotten a little crazy.
Hmm.
I think that agents are our own worst enemy. We like to create the biggest possible issue or scenario where things that maybe aren't even that big of a deal, but there's
Hmm.
a big following with issues, and I think there's a couple groups in general that like to create them.
Hmm.
And I try not to feed into that kind of stuff, which I think is really important. Is let the noise be the noise,
Yeah.
but still keep your eye on what's happening, right?
You
So,
bet.
what do you think are the biggest advances in technology that agents should be looking for or looking out for in their business down the road? And what's your take on technology pushing the agent out?
I don't think technology is going to push the agent out. I think it's going to compress the transaction a lot. Right. I think that these all-in-one solutions are going to be very difficult to keep updated because if you look back just 3 years ago, your website had to be, you know, SEO optimized, keywords,
Right.
now everything's on Facebook. So if you had an all-in-one system, it was tough to unplug that. Which is why with us, it's more of a best in class, like plug and play your tools. On the other side, I don't think it's an agent's job or a broker's job to be up to date on everything. You walk around a conference and there's 50 companies that are down on the floor. 40 of them aren't going to be there in a year,
Right.
right? I mean, it's just, real estate tech is where most dreams go to die.
Right.
I've found that out the last couple of years. It's our job, right, at LionDesk to really find those tools and connect them together. But you're going to hear keywords like, you know, like I mentioned, AI, machine learning, right? I mean, there's all of these different things that are out there, and for the most part, it's noise. It's like a shiny syndrome,
Right.
where it's like the shiny thing, the shiny object, right? Uh, Good. So the shiny object, and um, the problem is that when you start looking into all like the rabbit hole of tech, you're taking your eye off your business, right? And
Sure.
that's really what it comes down to. So you do have companies out there who have raised $1 billion, that still have to that call themselves a tech company that
Right.
that still need to buy other tech companies.
They don't have tech, but yet somehow they've got all this money that's supposed to go to
Yes.
tech.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's a whole different story, right?
Sure.
And then you've got Gary Keller out there saying he has the best system in the entire world. And that's fine, for KW agents. They got a great system. But, if you ever leave KW, you know,
Stuck.
what are you gonna do with your data?
Right.
Right?
Well, I mean, I think the thing with all of this is if you focus on things that are going to get you out of the business as an agent, if your focus is like, oh, I feel like you said, commission compression or iBuyer or tech is going to get rid of my job, then you're probably going to be out of a job. It's not going to be
Yeah,
because those things are going to do that. It's because you're so focused on everyone else that you don't focus on how do I stay in business.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was in the travel business before this, and people talk about a shift in real estate, right? And I was in the travel business when on, September 11th, 2001, and that was a shift.
Right.
I mean, when phones stop ringing for 3 months and it's like, what do we do? And you have to adjust. I mean, when the market eventually does, turn down, like the successful agents and successful brokers are still going to be successful,
Right.
right? I mean, and that's the key. And as far as the compression goes, I mean, you've got, lots of different companies focusing on, the agent, the broker, the finance, the title, the insurance, and then the next step beyond that is going to be how do we get the broker and the agent involved on all this like post transaction services, right? And I think that's where a lot of this stuff is going because that wraps back around to like, what am I going to communicate with my client in 12 months and,
Right.
36 months? And it's like services, right? To help them. So it always keeps you in front of them. That's where we're going with this is those four pillars and then the post services and trying to integrate all that.
So we actually created our own app, which you can find it in the App Store anywhere, called Premier Perks.
Hmm.
And a big part of it is exactly what you're talking about, being a resource for people that's not solely real estate related. We want to be that hub for anything that you want, right? I mean, you
Hmm.
you think of I need a CPA, I need to talk to AJ. He knows everyone. Like I'm connected, I've got discounts and options and preferred vendor lists and things that people need. I mean, you buy a house, like you said, most agents stop following up after they close the transaction.
Hmm.
So if I'm there and I say, hey guys, the first thing I know you're going to need to do is change your utilities over, and you're going to need cable and internet
Yeah.
and a landscaper and a this and a that, before you know it, they're like, man, AJ knows every single person I need. So if you develop that relationship quickly, they're always going to think of you. And then when they talk about you, that's how they're going to talk to their friends, family, coworkers about you. Is like, this is the person you have to talk to because he helped with every single step of everything, even when it wasn't real estate related.
Yep.
So I think that is definitely a big portion of why agents don't get referrals,
Hmm.
why they don't get past clients calling them again to sell their home. They just stop doing the things that got
The
them there,
value
which
add.
yeah, it's relationship
Yeah,
building.
I mean, it is. You gotta add value. You just can't be asking every month, like, "Hey, do you have anybody you want to refer to me?" Like, "You have any friends or people that are moving?" Like, give, like, give value. And like you said, use the perks program, right? I just moved into a house 2 years ago, and I had to call my agent, which is ironically
Sitting
sitting in
here.
front of me. Because we had like leaks and stuff, right? And like, "Hey, AJ, help me out. You got any contacts?" And sure enough, right?
Right.
And so, um, yeah, it's important. And I think you're right. And most agents and most business owners just don't do it,
Sure.
right?
All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us again, we are here with David Anderson, CEO and president of LionDesk. Before the break, we mentioned we were going to talk a little bit about future of tech and where we think real estate's going. So while we're at break, Dave and I were talking about what we think is going to happen over the next few years
Mhm.
here in real estate, which we're at I think, a really interesting time in our industry. Things are always changing and evolving. Now it's just faster, more money involved,
Mhm.
and I think that with media and social media, it becomes more of a focus for the agents to think I'm going to be out of business. My business is going to change because that's all they hear all the time.
Yep.
So, what do you think the next few years is going to look like in real estate? I know you mentioned aggregation of some brokerages, consumer experience. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. So I think that those agents who are focused on their business, right, are going to be okay. Those that aren't are not,
Right.
right? I think we do know that there's essentially billions of dollars coming into the real estate industry on both the brokerage side and the tech side. Um, I do think that there will continue to be um, companies that are being, whether or not it's on the tech or on the brokerage level, like acquired or merged together, right? Because efficiencies.
Sure.
And then on the other side, you mentioned agents going out of business. It's headlines, it's sensationalism. It's like the iBuyer.
Right.
conversation that is basically consuming everybody. But for the last several years, I've been driving around town. I see iBuyers everywhere because they've been posting, yellow, cards on trees saying, "We'll
Right.
buy your house for cash." Right. I mean, this isn't a new model,
Right.
right? It's just now you've got billions of dollars into it, and then you've got billions of dollars being lost, essentially,
Right.
right, on the iBuyer model. So it's not going anywhere. I think as an agent, going to consumer direct is really what that model is. And there will be a percentage of people that do that,
Right.
right? You just have to be educated when you're going to talk to that client on your listing appointment and say, hey, yeah, here's the options. Here's what you're going to get. And then here's what you're going to get with me. And by the way, once your house is sold with the iBuyer, they're done. Once your house is sold with me, I've got all these extra services I can offer you, which is where all that comes into play.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think that on the iBuyer note, let's start there. You can only buy houses in an up market
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's continuing to appreciate and you're making money. And I think that the first thing that's really going to affect that is when buying homes, and we already talked about at break that they're losing money. Zillow and all these
Oh,
companies
yeah.
are losing money on every home they purchase. There's just not a big enough spread and not enough people willing to take a big haircut. So they're losing money already in a market that's either appreciating or stabilized. And when the market does downturn, you're going to have these thousands of homes that you have in your portfolio that have lost 20,
Oh, yeah.
30% in value. And for a single homeowner, 20% is detrimental. To a company that owns tens of thousands of homes and they've all lost 30%. I just don't know how you can sustain a business model that is like that without continuing to fund it, stock. I mean, there's got to be a way to keep this
Yeah.
profitable.
Well, the old adage, right? Like we're going to lose money on the transaction, but make it up in volume, right?
Right.
Which is just like a big joke,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I mean, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's for sure, right? Zillow already knows that I mean, the last quarterly report came out. I mean, they're losing money on every transaction. If they would have done this 5 years ago, they would have made a fortune.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, a whole different market, right?
Sure.
And maybe that's the setup, right? I mean, maybe that is the setup, right? We don't know. So the
How
market's going to
long
go
can a
down.
long game be, though?
It's, I mean, as a public company, who knows, right? But for one that's never made money, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the guys at the top are still doing pretty well,
Sure.
right? But as the agent, again, or the broker, I mean, there's a lot of broker models out there. I think you have one too, where you can bring an iBuyer program to that listing and say, hey, here's what we
Exactly.
offer. Yeah, and so everybody will be offering it, and then it's up to the agent, the salesperson, to say to that client, like, listen, depending on your circumstances, here's what you can do versus here's what I can do. And, you want that extra 15 or 20%, and
Yep.
by the way, the average closing is with my company is within 30 days. So we're going to get you that money. It's not going to,
Not
so
going to take months and months.
now,
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is we talk about this a lot, determining why someone has an objection or an opinion and being able to either debunk that as being incorrect or figure out what that real motivation is and figure out a solution. So, if most people are looking at iBuyer want it because it's quick and efficient, well, we got investors that'll buy your home and probably at a better price than Zillow, and
yeah,
they're not going to charge a 9% fee on top of that. And it's all about educating the consumer and showing them there's better options. And one of the things that I think is going to happen is more and more of these people that go into the iBuyer program are going to start realizing they lost money and they're going to write negative reviews about Zillow and the process. And people are going to see like, oh, thousands of people have now said this was not my best option.
yeah,
And so, if it's efficiency, then you as the agent have to figure out a way to make the transaction more efficient so that they don't think about going to iBuyer. If it's timelines and you figure out quick closing options, but we're problem solvers. We're professional problem
yeah.
solvers and resources. And if you don't think about yourself as that, then that's the first problem. And just having competitive items that no longer make Zillow look like a great option,
Yeah,
right?
I
And
mean, it's it. I mean, the other thing with the iBuyer program, and every agent and broker should have something out there to say, type in your home address and we'll see what it's worth, and we'll buy your house for cash. That's a great lead gen
right,
tool. I mean, yeah, Rich Barton was up on stage a couple months ago talking about, like, honestly, we're just getting a ton of leads.
yep,
Right. So that's one thing to take advantage of,
sure,
for sure. And then the other thing is, like you said, be educated, right? Come armed with, like you said, know what those objections are going to be, how to overcome them, because it's going to be, if you're confident and you're able to do that, your clients is going to see right, right at you and be like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, or this girl knows what she's talking about,
Right.
right?
So on another topic here, you've mentioned consumer experience and post transactional type stuff. What are the things you'd recommend to agents that they look into or start putting into their business?
Yep. So I think, from a consumer experience perspective, which is what we are looking at LionDesk, it's like I mentioned, you got the agent, you got the lender, you got title, right? And then you've got the insurance. And the agent should be connected throughout that entire process. And a lot of times they're not.
Right.
It's very disconnected right now, right? And then beyond the sale, the like we talked about earlier, connecting that post sale stuff is huge, so that you can ask your Alexa app, like, "Hey Alexa, I need a plumber," and it says, "Great, I've just emailed you from Powers Premier or whatever their broker is, right? Some options." And we've got a couple companies that we work with that do that, and it's going to change a lot, because as the agents keep coming up against all these different new models, right, which is never going to stop,
Right.
they have to increase their value.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it's not just put a list on the MLS, throw up a Facebook ad and go. Like, you got to have this entire consumer walkthrough path for them, that they're going to say, wow, this is pretty amazing. This guy's great, and like, we want to work with that agent and that broker again because of all these 50 things they did besides just, taking some pictures.
Right. We talk about all the time here at the brokerage is if you don't take all these opportunities and not only provide those services, but build the relationships with all those other industries,
Hmm.
you're missing a huge, huge
Huge.
potential referral network and just a database of other people's friends, family, coworkers, clients, because you think about a CPA, and it's something where everyone does their taxes, everyone needs financial advice. Well, if you have a CPA that you are their preferred agent and you also refer them business, that becomes a lead source now.
Hmm.
And now, you keep them happy, you build a relationship, you bring them into your network, you add value to their business. They're going to have people that say, "Hey, Jim, at the end of the year, we're thinking about selling our home. How is that going to look on our taxes?" And Jim's going to say, "Oh, that's awesome. We can definitely talk about that. Who are you working with to sell your home? You should talk to AJ."
Yeah.
And so by not taking the opportunity to build your B2B professional network, you're missing a huge, huge opportunity. We talk about probate, trust, divorce,
Oh,
bankruptcy,
yeah.
all of these different, and you want to be that resource. So I think that is huge. If you're out there and you're using a CRM, especially LionDesk, think about during your transaction, what if you added drip campaigns to recommend vendors at certain times?
Hmm.
It's week 3 on a 4-week transaction. What if you had a drip that went out for your movers? And then you had a drip that goes out for changing out your utilities or a
Yep.
new cable company. And that can be automated. All you have to do is build a relationship, set up an email, and send that stuff out. And now all of a sudden, you again are that resource where it's like, would have thought to ask AJ for utilities, but he's done that for me.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge aspect of the experience.
Yeah, and by the way, put those same contacts into LionDesk, right? So put the CPA, put the insurance, right? Put all these people in there, so that when you do have opportunities, or you're going to do, an open house, or a client invite appreciation event, like, invite them as well,
Right.
right? I mean, there's a lot that you can do, and this is the thing when I mentioned earlier, business owner versus just agent.
Sure.
Right? I mean, that's the biggest difference between those that are doing 150 transactions a year versus, like, two and a
One.
half, right?
Sure.
Uh, it's because you can work in your business, but then you also got to work on your business, right? And that's part of it, that most agents don't do.
Sure. Last thing I want to go over here, and I mentioned to you at the break, I ask every single guest top 3 tips for success, either in life or in business. What are your 3?
Well, I think I just gave one. Work on your business as much as you're working in your business,
Okay.
right? Like, think like a business owner. Number 2 is, and I wasn't big into this earlier, but I am now. It's like, have a mentor or somebody who you trust, that has, been successful in one aspect or another, whether it's personal, business, and talk to that person, right? Like, Chris Heller and I have become pretty good friends, and I talk to him pretty often. He's been pretty successful in his life, and he helps a lot. And then the third thing is, keep hustling, don't give up. I mean, there's going to be ups and downs. I mean, for our company, going from 30 clients in 2016 to 30,000 plus today, it wasn't always just like, up, right? There was
Sure.
a lot of down, kind of sleepless nights, right? Like, what are we going to do? But you got to keep believing in the vision and just keep driving forward.
Vision and mindset. I mean, every single person we bring on, I think that's
That's it.
one of the three is don't give up, have grit, have mindset, be willing to work through the difficulties and get to the point where, there is a turning point, I think, in every business where you finally feel like,
Oh,
all
yeah.
right, now we can crank it up, right? And
Hmm.
for most people, they don't ever get to that point. They either quit, fail, or feel like they're never going to get there and leave, and they never even get to the point where it's fun, it's making money, it's growing. And I think that just comes down to impatience, partially,
Hmm.
and maybe even a little lack of self confidence that they can do it themselves,
That's
which
where the mentor comes in
yeah,
as well.
I think that's an awesome tip. So if you don't have a mentor, find one. Talk to people you aspire to be, and heck, reach out to Dave or myself. We'd be
That's right.
happy to help you out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Dave. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to follow LionDesk, you can go on Instagram. It's at LionDesk CRM. You can go to liondesk.com. If you're here in the San Diego area, they're out of Carlsbad. Give Dave a little DM there, and you can come by and check out the new
That's right.
space. But again, thanks so much, Dave. I appreciate it.
You bet, man. Appreciate it.